Mr. Speaker, I'd like to go back down to number 7. I talked to the gentleman from Pike. That'd be House Bill 764. He would like to work it, so at this time I recognize him to explain the bill.
The gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered and engrossed, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is the health care retention bill that many of you heard about over the summer and fall, and so we've worked hard on it the last several months. I do have a clarifying amendment at the proper time. But basically, ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is one bill that's coming from the federal funds, the ARPA funds. Excuse me, gentlemen. We do have a committee sub there we need to pull up. Do you want to do that or not? Yes, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman moves committee substitute be adopted for consideration in lieu of the original bill. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. You're recognized, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I mentioned, this is the health care retention legislation that we talked about for several months, and so I do have a clarifying amendment at the proper time. But this is one piece of legislation that we are bringing out dealing with the ARPA funds that we do have a amount in it. So this amount is $56 million. So basically $40 million will go to hospitals based on a formula dealing with licensed beds and the number of COVID patients that facility has taken care of. We've got about $2.5 million for nursing homes, which is skilled nursing homes, again, based on the number of COVID patients and also the number of licensed beds. And also, that was $7.5 million, and then $2.5 million for ambulance services, and then also $5 million for some monies that we believe may go toward the ambulance systems, because it's a challenge right now to get the exact number of COVID patients that they have taken, but we do have exact numbers for the skilled nursings and also the hospitals. This would give the hospitals and the skilled nursing homes the ability to give their healthcare workers up to $5,000 per employee based on the monies they receive, and that employee must stay at that facility for at least 5 months. So this is a good start. We understand there is some long-term issues with our nursing shortage here in Mississippi and some short-term fixes, and this is a short-term fix that we can try to help with our nursing issues today. And so I want to thank the Speaker and the Chairman for this piece of legislation. As we start to develop a plan for our federal funds, I have mentioned many times that we must be mindful this is a healthcare pandemic. And so I will continue to push to spend monies toward healthcare, to improve healthcare. And so this is one way that we can give back to our workers in Mississippi and say thank you for what you're doing. And that is the explanation, Mr. Speaker. Again, based on this formula, your hospitals will receive monies, and then at that point, your facilities will determine which employees they will give that money to. That is the explanation, Mr. Speaker, and at the proper time, I will have a clarifying amendment. Now's the time, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We need a copy of it, though, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It really just is a housekeeping amendment. Early on, we had the contract between the Department of Health is where this grant program will be initiated, and we had the Department of Health had a contract with the hospital, and it just became too much. So obviously, the Department of Health will issue the monies to the hospital or the skilled nursing, but at that point, it will be a contract between the hospital or nursing home and that employee. So it takes the Department of Health out of a contract situation between an employee. So that is the explanation of the amendment, Mr. Speaker. Questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Anything further on the bill? No, sir, Mr. Speaker. Lady from Jones has a question.
Thank you so much. Gentlemen, would you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, gentlemen, let me ask you, is this bill similar to what they passed in the Mississippi State Senate?
I have no idea what they passed in the Mississippi State Senate, lady.
Okay, so the Senate did have some kind of health care bill that they passed that would not allow for the employees of the state of Mississippi to get premium pay. So my question to you is, will we have a bill coming from the Appropriations Committee that will allow for state employees who are healthcare workers to get premium pay?
So, lady, this will allow state institutions like UMC, county-owned facilities, also Mississippi State Hospital. It will allow those entities to apply as well.
Okay, then I'm just, I know it says licensed in the state of Mississippi.
Yes, ma'am. So what you mean UMC, what you mean state hospital, so they would be able to apply because they're also having issues with their healthcare workers.
And so those facilities that are in mental health that are considered nursing homes, they would also, their employees would be.
Yes, ma'am.
So state employees will get premium pay if this bill becomes law.
Well, I'm not calling it premium pay, I'm calling it retention. And so that leadership team at the skilled nursing home, the leadership team at the hospital will have to decide which employees they are giving this retention money to.
Okay, and so this is offered to private institutions as well?
Yes, ma'am. So if you're a licensed facility, you can apply. Yes, ma'am.
And my final question to you is, we know the work that the federally qualified health centers did, and I don't see where they would be allowed to participate. Are they allowed? I don't see where a clinic, I see hospital, I see, a nursing home, long-term care. But is there any language in this bill that would allow them to be able to participate in this grant program?
No, ma'am, because we do have other pieces of legislation that deal with clinics. That's also, I think, on the calendar for today. And so this is just a short-term fix for our hospitals, our skilled nursing facilities that have really been struggling with their COVID patients. But I do acknowledge, as you know, lady, I'm a big fan of their FQHCs, and so we do have legislation coming that they would be able to apply as well.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Jim from DeSoto, Mr. Eubanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an amendment at the proper time.
Gentleman from Hines, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentlemen, you yield.
Yes, sir.
One question, which employees would be eligible for this bonus pay?
It does not, it's not specific, gentlemen. It will allow that leadership team at the hospitals, at the skilled nursing home, at the ambulances, corporations, they will determine which employees they need to retain during this COVID-19 pandemic.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir.
All right, I don't see any further questions. Gentleman from DeSoto indicates he has an amendment. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, friends, we did a very good thing in here as a body last week, something each one of us should be proud of. And I would like to thank the Speaker and the Chairman for helping make that happen with House Bill 1509. We stood up for Mississippians' constitutional freedom and liberty. And this is the very thing that makes America great. But there's still a grievous wrong that has been and will continue to occur in our state, and 1509 does nothing to address this for these Mississippians. Madam Clerk, will you please read the amendment?
Clerk's recognized to read the amendment.
Amendment number 2 by Representative Eubanks, amend and insert on line 151. As a further condition of receiving funds under this act, any employer in the state of Mississippi who has terminated employment of any healthcare worker who has requested a religious exemption from COVID vaccine and has been denied, and as a result subsequently fired the requesting employee, must first offer that employee their employment back at the same level of pay, seniority, and benefits that they were receiving at the time of termination. If reemployment is accepted by the employee, their religious exemption must be granted and accommodations made. Failure to do so invalidates any employer, whether public or private, from participating in this program. Amend the title to conform.
Thank you, ma'am. My amendment is simple. It is an attempt to right a grievous wrong that has been occurring in our state. Nurses across this state have been denied religious exemptions and fired for not taking the COVID shot. Never mind that they spent the last 2 years taking care of COVID patients. They went from being treated as a hero, which they are, to a 0 overnight. Never mind that this injection does nothing to prevent you from getting the virus or spreading it. The gentle lady from Madison and I met with one such nurse just a few days ago that was fired after her religious exemption was denied. We have tons of nurses in this state who are quite willing to work for the same pay that they are receiving as they served us throughout the pandemic. If only they could have their job back. This is not only wrong, it is illegal. Under Title VII of the Civil Rights Code, along with both the national and state RFRAs, one of which this body helped pass, what they are doing in denying religious accommodation, and that is illegal in the United States of America and the state of Mississippi. It is not the role of your pastor or your rabbi or your imam to determine the level of your deeply held religious beliefs, and it should most certainly not be the role of some HR person in some public or private business who may or may not possess a negative bias towards religion in general. It's the whole reason we have these laws in our Constitution. If we were to allow full-scale discrimination based on race in this state, our citizenry in this legislature would be outraged and moving heaven and earth to deal with it, and rightfully so. We most certainly shouldn't turn a blind eye to religious discrimination taking place right under our noses as we speak on a grand scale by the very businesses we aim to help with this taxpayer money. Now, I know that there are many of you in here that say we should not be telling private businesses what to do. And ironically, everything that we do in this chamber is either telling private individuals, businesses, or public businesses what to do. This amendment doesn't do anything as far as telling them what to do. It merely incentivizes them to do the right thing and to correct the wrongs that have been occurring. Before we vote to give $56 million to public and private businesses around the state, I would ask all of you to take a stand for religious freedom and personal liberty. Now, I know that there are some of you in this chamber who might be offended at me or dislike my politics, and that's okay because none of us will ever see eye to eye all the time. That is the beauty of our representative democracy. If I have done something personally to offend anyone in this chamber, I ask you to come and see me, let me buy you lunch, and we'll work through it. But this is much bigger than me, and this is much bigger than this body. I promised folks that I would do everything within my power to fix this egregious wrong, and I know that many of you have done the same thing for the last 7 months. Let's show them back home that we meant what we said. I yield for questions.
All right, gentleman from Tallahatchie, you have a question?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion
Yes, sir.
that this amendment be tabled.
Motion is to table. Those opposed have 5 minutes. Any opposed? I don't see any. If you favor the motion to table, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Ayes have it. Amendment is tabled. Motion to table prevails.
Move final passage, Mr. Speaker.
Any questions on the bill? Gentleman Covington? Okay, I don't see any questions. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed to vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By vote 112 yeas, 6 nays, the bill passes.